following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Television, radio, internet, the world.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, along with the Hall of Famers.
HOFer.
David Hero, the lovely Linda Kay.
The lovely and talented Linda Kay.
Is in the studio on the Cos. And, Phil, it looked like his car out there, but I guess it wasn't. Literally, folks, I have no idea where Dameon Nelson
You know, if
is.
you're going to pick up your ball and go home, then just go home. It wasn't my fault. It was a fair opportunity. If you haven't seen the draft, go to PWRshow.com. Check out the PWR Show draft. I got the number one pick. I drafted The Miz. Nelson gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. He gave me picks number 2 and 3. I then draft Ken Anderson and Alberto Del Rio, number 2 and 3. He then gets my number 4, so of course he drafts Cody Rhodes. I mean, with John Cena, Randy Orton, all these other studs out there,
right,
he goes with, Cody Rhodes. We do the rest of the draft, which was absolutely tremendous for me. I think Nelson drafted a couple of kids from Tough Enough as well. And then we do the wild card, which was a brilliant idea. I mean, I thought that the corporate offices came up with an idea that, hey, after the draft is done, we put cards out, ace through 10, ace being number 1. Dameon got the first crack at it. He picks number 6, which means he gets my number 6 overall pick, which was AJ Styles. We reshuffle all the cards again. Now it's my turn to pick, and I'll be damned. I pull the ace.
I thought for sure you had, the way that you made it, look, I thought you had Pope.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Everybody wanted, Dameon was hoping I would get the Pope in the wild card. So then I would have to cheer for his boy, which I knew was not going to happen.
Right.
So he pouts, he gets upset, he gets hot about it, but at the end of the day, I get the Miz, Ken Anderson, and Del Rio.
We're going to talk more about PWR draft. Let's set the table for you. First of all, the phone numbers. Locally here in Milwaukee, 414-276-3776. All over the world at 800-990-3776. You can head over to the chat room. You can text us.
Absolutely. I'll give you that number right now. If you want to text us at tonight's show, you can reach us at 414-219-9125. Again, that's 414-219-9125. And, of course, your Facebook comments, Twitter comments, everything. Blog Talk Radio, you know it. We want to see it. So make sure to tune in into our social media.
And Linda will be reading those throughout the evening. And, of course, we appreciate everyone's patience this evening as the Brewer game went way long, way extra innings. But we are on. And, again, Al Snow is going to join us later on in the program. And we're going to take some phone calls. And we're going to start with Ryan in Brooklyn. Ryan, you're on the Pro Wrestling Report. Hit it!
Brooklyn.
Hey, guys, what's going on?
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, I just wanted to say I'm kind of happy that R-Truth finally got a chance to shine as a heel. I think he'll do really good. I like him in TNA as a heel. I think he's been kind of wasted as a face.
Well, let's hope that they can book R-Truth into some meaningful programs where he's not going to be squashed by a John Cena right away or a Randy Orton. Let him build up with Morrison. Let him get over on Morrison eventually. Just do it the right way.
The point to him smoking, like that, that's not heelish. That's just, why are you smoking on television in front of kids? Like, that's not supposed to give any example.
Well, but with that argument, you have Stone Cold Steve Austin drinking beer in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, I guess so, but smoking's a little different than drinking.
Well, you got to be 21 to drink, 18 to smoke. They're going for that PG audience, so I guess they're getting younger that way. But yeah, I understand. The smoking thing was a little bit too far, but I don't know. At least they're trying something different with R-Truth.
Yeah, all in all, I hope he's booked right, and I just hope it's not wasted. WWE's been doing really bad with that. The whole Nexus angle is falling apart twice, and they just can't seem to keep anything going. And I think that's the biggest flaw right now. And neither company can do it. So
the only thing
all
they're
right,
keeping,
guys.
All right, thank you, Ryan, for the phone call. Appreciate it.
the only thing they're keeping going right now is Michael Cole. He gets more face time than anybody right now.
I think once this draft happens next week, things will really start to.
I hope so.
At least in my opinion, it should. 800-990-3776 locally, Milwaukee, 414-276-3776. Let's continue on the phone and speak to Ricardo in Houston. Ricardo, you're on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Yo, what up, dog?
What up, dog?
All right.
Hey, Ricardo.
What up, dogs?
Chilling. First of all, Friday's PWR Jet was # tremendous. It was great.
Glad you enjoyed it.
You know, Ricardo, who ruled the world, right?
The
Super Friends.
The Super Friends are going to blow out whatever Dameon Nelson's team is.
All right. See what happens.
But anyways, I'm not going to talk about that. The draft next week on Raw.
Yeah.
Since SmackDown is lacking in baby faces, who do you see going over there? Do you see like a Daniel Bryanson or even a Randy Orton heading over there to SmackDown to put the star power up some?
Well, it could be really anybody at this point. I'm looking for some kind of shock moment where it's like, I can't believe they put that wrestler over there. Otherwise, if it's just real simple, because you know they've had the Raw guys over on SmackDown, the SmackDown guys over on Raw, a lot.
I can see Triple H going to SmackDown.
Which he did about 4 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, but I can see H absolutely going to SmackDown.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe put Randy Orton over there since Triple H a couple of years ago was the biggest star on Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe put Randy Orton over there, who's you could say he's on the same level as Cena. Put him over there on SmackDown and have two big stars on each show. I mean, it's just me.
Well, if Randy Orton goes to SmackDown, then he owns the show. Because there's nobody else on SmackDown with his star power besides Undertaker, and Taker's not coming back anytime soon.
Well, when Triple H went over there, who was over there with him?
I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
Well, exactly. Nobody. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
All right, Carl, thank you very much for the phone call.
Thanks, dog.
Let's take one more before we hit the break, and we'll speak to Rob in New Jersey. Rob, you're on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hello.
Hey, Rob.
What's up?
Where
Is this Rob or Bob?
Is Dameon gone?
I don't know where Dameon is.
Where can he be? I just made a tally on that last video of how many F-bombs.
All right, thank you very much for the phone call. Rob, or
Bob? I don't know.
Whatever. When we come back, Al Snow will join us.
Is he bringing head?
What does everybody want? What does everybody need?
And welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, PWRshow.com. Joining us now, special guest on the Time Warner Cable phone line. It's what everybody wants. It's Al Snow. Al, good evening.
Good evening, and how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for taking the time tonight. Got Dave Hero with us. Dave?
Al, welcome. Well, we'll welcome you in a couple weeks back to Milwaukee, but welcome back to the PWR show.
Thank you.
Hot off the heels of a hot TNA pay-per-view last night where you were the agent for a couple of the matches. And what's it like being the guy that's in charge of having 8 guys locked inside of a cage to try to make sure everything all comes together?
It can be challenging, and the trick is to construct the match in such a way as that the spotlights are given to certain people at certain times to make sure that nobody misses those key moments in a story, and then that builds in the proper direction that you want, so that people think and feel what you want them to think and feel at the end.
And with 8 guys in there, of course, with all different kinds of styles and moves and whatnot, how hard is it to keep everyone's egos in check? I mean, because everybody wants to have their moment. They want to have their chance to shine. and you're only given X number of, maybe 15, 20 minutes to tell that story. What are some of the problems that you have, trying to put all of that together?
It's a matter of direction and just keeping everybody focused on what the real business at hand is, and never losing sight of that, of what it is that the match is really out there to accomplish. And, everybody's pretty professional. When you reacquaint everybody with what it is that they're really out there for, you have to, make adjustments and everything. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm there for, is to keep guiding the ship in the right direction, to make adjustments to, give that guy a little bit of the spotlight, but in a way that the spotlight doesn't take away from the real business that we're trying to accomplish.
Alrighty, and then of course now you've had a real busy weekend. We were in Cincinnati for Lockdown pay-per-view. You're now down in Orlando getting ready for the TNA TV tapings. This Friday, back in Louisville, Kentucky, you got a big show coming up. What's going on in Louisville Friday night?
We're in Louisville Friday night at the Davis Arena at the OVW Stomping Grounds, 4400 Shepherdsville Road. We will be having the first ever Mondo Wrestling A Go-Go, which is for those, probably a lot of the wrestling fans out there know Lucha Vavoom, where it's like a combination of both burlesque and wrestling, and that's pretty much what we're going to do. We've literally got 6 wrestling matches, very old ECW type style. Anything goes. The referee is just there to basically declare the winner. And then with some ridiculous characters, we've got Makukaracha, who is a man dressed as a cockroach.
Nice.
We have,
so Dameon Nelson is going to be in town.
The Cleveland Steamers, taking on the colorfully, alternate sex life team of the Glory Hole. We have, many other characters that are on the show, and then we've got all the hot burlesque chicks. We have an incredibly hot, sexy contortionist who can literally roll herself up in a ball, and then we've got, a magician. We've got a comedian. We have a live band. We've got a girl that does a hula hoop striptease. We've got a girl that does a striptease while firing off trick guns. We have 2 aerial acts, one on a lyra, which is like a metal hula hoop in the air, and then another one on the silks, which are like giant curtains, very Cirque du Soleil. And then we've got a girl that juggles fire, and one that does a dance with fire fans, and one that eats fire and breathes fire. It's basically an adult circus is what it's going to be.
We're speaking with Al Snow on the PWR show, Pro Wrestling Report, 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. Al, how'd you get involved in, I guess it's a wrestling...
Burlesque and wrestling.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
My wife got involved with a burlesque troupe and began performing, and I watched the girls and was just amazed at how really talented they were and how hard they really worked. I mean, especially the aerial act. It's really, just the burlesque show itself is very, very entertaining. And so I thought, well, gosh, if the burlesque show itself is entertaining, what would it be like with the wrestling show? So, I put the two together, and you got some of your wrestling in my burlesque, and I got some of your burlesque in my wrestling. So
it's the ultimate variety show, absolutely. And then, of course,
absolutely.
And then next Friday, April 29th, up in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, Al Snow is coming back to GLCW, and he'll be wrestling Seagull Tony Scarpone.
That's right, the infamous Seagull, who has been flying high for quite some time, but I've taken upon myself to clip the Seagull's wings and ground the mighty Albatross, in the match in Cedarburg.
It's going to be interesting. So we got this Friday, we have wrestling and burlesque. It's Wrestling A Go-Go, correct?
Mondo Wrestling A Go-Go in Louisville, Kentucky, 4400 Shepherdsville Road. You can go to ovwrestling.com for more information and for tickets. I would suggest you get them early because They are going fast, and we've got a limited number of seats. They're all great seats. But it's going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be, personally, I swear to you, and I'm not saying this because I'm doing an interview, the more I watch, like the girls are rehearsing and like we come up with ideas for the wrestling matches and things like that, the more excited I get to just watch the show, not just to...
Al, you just said it, the more excited you get as you watch the girls rehearsing.
Yeah, that too, yeah, of course. I mean, think about it. You're watching a hot woman roll herself up in a ball. I mean, come on.
Is this where you get your Twitter?
Get excited about that, then you might as well join the team of the glory hole.
Is this where you get your tweets and your Facebook updates from? If you follow Al on Twitter, it's at the real Al Snow.
Yes, at the real Al Snow, because God only knows why somebody would want to try to pass themselves off as me. If I was going to be passing myself off as somebody, it would certainly not be Al Snow. It would be because of somebody far better.
And, of course, you don't want to pass yourself off as Al Snow, considering you have now been banned at the IHOP.
Yeah.
So, hi. Cut this. Al, we'll talk to you. Al, we'll talk to you later. We'll talk to you later, Al. Yeah, really. What on God's green are you guys doing here?
I can't believe you cut off Al Snow.
You just chopped off Al Snow, man.
Are you that guy now?
Al will...
Mr. Number 4 draft pick because you lost the first 3?
Al, what I was trying to say is we'll give you a call back. We'll get to the midget story, and we'll have that available later. In the meantime and in between time, clearly I had an obligation to come down and rescue this show tonight. Welcome to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. We are live on Monday, April 18, 2011. Dameon Nelson, the 2010 Wrestling Radio Host of the Year, and the leader of the Nelson family, here along with the Cause, Linda Kay, our very own social media diva, and David Octavius of Tiberius, the alleged Hall of Famer hero.
And manager/owner of Super Friends, the top fantasy wrestling team in the world.
We want to thank Al Snow for being our guest. Al understands. I'll give him a call during the first break, and I'm sure he'll understand that we got some business to finish here. And
I'm so shocked that you cut off Al Snow.
I just can't believe the guy showed up.
I was at the office, and you heard the music. This past weekend, I had a long conversation with my number 10 pick and my very great friend, the Pope, and we came up with a plan. A plan to right this wrong.
Be interesting.
To right this wrong that was what you did to me, Frank, what you did to me, Dave, in the 2011 Pro Wrestling Report draft. Tillman, Frank should not be on a live mic right now. Thank you. This is me. Really. You survived the firings from the draft.
Oh,
all right?
God.
I had a sweet spot in my heart for you. You are on thin ice, all right? I want to say this before we get to talking about Lockdown and Raw and the very eventful last 24 hours in professional wrestling. As I was talking to the Pope this weekend, we came up with a plan and a proposal. And
did you guys really have your meeting at Waffle House?
I took it to the office, and they decided the following. Tonight, live here on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, there will be a supplemental draft.
Oh.
That's the only reason I'm here. That's the only way they can get me back into the studio, a supplemental draft here tonight. 2 more names for me, 2 more names for the loser over there. That all happens tonight right here on this very program.
Why Frank a loser?
Now, before we get to that, we'll get
He's
to
not
that.
Even in this thing.
We'll get to that at the end of the program. I want to say this. You can go to pwrshow.com right now and find out all the names of the people that were selected for each team.
I have the
Nelson
names.
family,
You have the people.
The Nelson family and the PWR. And the Super Friends. Actually, okay, Frank, if you want to read them now, feel free to do so. But these are the teams that were selected on the big draft episode last Thursday, at pwrshow.com, the 2011 PWR draft.
All right, the Super Friends. They have Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Del Rio,
Cena, Orton, RVD, AJ Styles, Wade Barrett, Sin Cara.
No. Wait a minute. Stop. I don't have AJ anymore. Remember, I lost him in the wild card.
Going to that in a second.
Oh, okay. Don't get hot, Frank.
Beer Money and Awesome Kong.
Who?
That was the original draft before we hit the wild card.
Yeah, wild card.
Then Nelson had The Miz, Cody Rhodes, Pope, Slater and Gabriel, Sheamus, CM Punk, Rey Mysterio, Sting,
Big Show,
Christian,
Pope.
There we go.
Sheamus?
Yeah, the United States of America champion. Absolutely,
yeah.
I do.
That's what we had. Now, the thing that I want to make sure is you both signed for the wild card before we're going to do this.
I agree to it.
Okay?
I was about as coherent as I was when Jim Cornette signed over Owen Hart, the British Bulldog, to Clarence Mason at International Incident in 1996. That's about how coherent I was at the time that contract was put in front of me. But you know what? Fine. I signed it. It happened. Hey,
you were happy with
I'm a good
AJ
sport.
Styles.
I showed how clearly I'm a good sport at the end of the draft last week.
Yeah, you did.
So I'm fine with it. Whatever.
You pulled AJ Styles, number 6.
Yeah, I did, and that got me some points.
You know what? You should be more upset with drafting the guys you drafted me than being upset with me for being lucky.
And then out of complete luck. And I thought you had the 10. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get ready to write the 10.
Well, come on. I had to tease him a little bit. You know,
and then
I wanted
there is the ace. It was just amazing. It was an amazing show.
You can see all the details of that at pwrshow.com and the supplemental draft tonight. The supplemental draft tonight will occur at the end of this program here at PWR on ESPN Radio on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
I cannot wait. Hey, why don't you just trade me your 2 picks for? I'll give you a pick next year.
I want to say this to you, to everybody else out there who thinks I picked a quote-unquote crap roster, and even without the Miz, bro, we're 5 points apart. So I must have picked some pretty dang good people because I am right there.
No, you had more guys than me going.
What does that matter?
Because you had more players playing.
Actually, you had 4, I had 3.
It doesn't
Try
matter.
again.
Listen, amigo, I'm still winning. Isn't that your gimmick, winning? First place. Week 1 winner.
You know what?
What?
It all matters come April 1st, 2012. WrestleMania 28, Miami, Florida.
It's only a 5-point lead. I got to say both your rosters are outstanding.
Thank you.
Frank, you're a liar. You know his team sucks.
Linda even agrees that I have the most well-rounded roster of champions and stars and future stars than anybody. I didn't
You got my next big thing.
All you did, Dave, was pick your friends and your favorites. That's all you did.
There's a Briscoe on his team?
Cody Rhodes.
Oh, okay.
Let's get to the wrestling. Last night was Lockdown from TNA Wrestling. Dave, you were there. However, I luckily never saw you, and I was there as well. I decided at the last minute to go down to Cincinnati, and boy, am I happy with that decision. It was a good pay-per-view. But the question that should be thrown out there is, was it
Why
redemption?
did you pick Gabriel and Slater? That's the question we want to know.
Was it redemption for the Victory Road debacle that was the end of the previous pay-per-view from TNA Wrestling? Overall, one title changes hands, that being the Knockout Championship, but every match in a steel cage. Kurt Angle, Jeff Jarrett obviously stealing the show. Sting retains the championship, and the Lethal Lockdown match I thought delivered. Question for you guys, did it deliver enough to get people thinking about TNA going forward as opposed to TNA in the past?
I think so. I mean, I thought the matches were solid. Most of them told really good stories. The main event was extremely hot. They had a hot Kurt Angle, Jeff Jarrett match, which the crowd was going banana for. I mean, then you had, you had Ken versus Sting versus RVD, which was another solid match, and the main event was huge. I think that they delivered. And if you didn't order the pay-per-view, which I'm sure most of you didn't, you actually missed out on a pretty solid show.
I think all the wrestlers stepped up. They knew that how important this pay-per-view was, and they put their egos aside and put on an outstanding show, and you got good value for it, too. From top to bottom, it was a pretty good pay-per-view.
And let's not forget, Victory Road, before the situation between Jeff Hardy and Sting, wasn't a horrible show. Wasn't a horrible pay-per-view. However, the ending of it is what everyone should and will remember.
But you know what? That was a long time ago now.
Show. It was.
You know? I mean, for me, I've forgotten that it was last month. It's been so long.
You forgot that it was last month, but you certainly have forgotten what happened.
No, of course not.
And we have not since seen Jeff Hardy in TNA Wrestling, which I think is the right thing for them to have done, because I would say this, being there live in Cincinnati last night, Jeff Hardy wasn't missing from the show. It wasn't something that needed to be there to take the show to another level, a different step, if you will. I thought it was fine without him. Other things that happened on Lockdown last night, or during Lethal Lockdown, AJ Styles making his surprise return to television. And, I was there, as I said, I got there late. Dave, you were there all week and weekend.
That was really well done. I mean,
I understand AJ hadn't been seen all weekend in Cincinnati until he came through the curtain.
I didn't see him anywhere. We were backstage. I didn't see him anywhere backstage. They hit him so well, no one knew he was in town. So when he came out, the crowd blew up. It was a great finish to that match.
What was the live crowd like there?
You know what? It was a strong TNA crowd. They chanted big time for Kurt Angle. They loved Ric Flair. They loved Scott Steiner. They loved Sting. They loved Hulk Hogan. They loved the legend. And the one guy that, besides the AJ Styles pop, Mr. Anderson got a great crowd reaction. And he was the one that wasn't one of the legends or icons that was on the show that got a great crowd pop. But you know what? Here's the thing. When you got 5,000 people that are actually buying tickets to be there, they're invested into somebody. They're not people in a theme park going into a studio being told when to boo and cheer.
What do you mean 5,000, Dave? I read all over the Internet that half the arena was empty.
Well, part of it was empty. But
there was because it's TNA, half of the arena was empty.
It's a 14,000-seat arena.
No, because it's TNA, Dave. This is what people think out there. All the experts who are experts at saying they're experts. That's
why you need to listen to opinionists.
Well, and fact at this point,
yeah.
You were there.
Well, and the fact is, TNA drew a great house last night, and not sugarcoating that, because quite frankly, if you watched SmackDown last week, granted it wasn't a pay-per-view, I get it. If you watched SmackDown last week, TNA had more people at Lockdown than SmackDown had when you take out tarps and empty seats. But what does that matter at the end of the day? For TNA, a lot. For us as fans, shouldn't be anything. But one thing that is many times underestimated is the audience's impact on a show overall. And, Dave, you made that point just a minute ago. What's different between Orlando and anywhere else where TNA has gone, it's a distinct difference because the fans are indeed vested and bought in, and that showed last night. Now, there were some lulls in the fans' interest in the show, specifically after Eric Bischoff came out and said, I still don't know exactly what he said. He sort of teased Hogan doing something huge or big. It seemed like maybe last night it was supposed to happen. While we did see Hogan and Sting play off of each other a little bit, which we'll get to in a moment, I think that confused people enough where they're like, oh, great, Hogan's going to get involved with this thing somehow or another, and not because of dislike or disdain for Hogan, but knowing that they could possibly go in a different way as a result of his interference. I think it confused a lot of the people, much like maybe my explanation.
You know what? People can sit there and complain about Hulk Hogan being involved, but at the end of the night, he had one of the best reactions from the crowd. Love him or hate him, it's still Hulk Hogan. He's still the most popular wrestler in the universe.
Right. Well, there's an added excitement when a pay-per-view is coming to your town. And whether it's TNA or WWE, it's a pay-per-view. So you know you're going to get a little more storylines, maybe storylines coming together. And TNA, I thought, and the wrestlers put on a fantastic show for that live crowd.
I mean, I'll admit, driving down to Cincinnati, I'm thinking, my God, this could be just brutal. All cage matches, 3 cage matches with 8 guys in. I mean, what a mess it could possibly be. And I went down there actually fearing the worst, thinking, it's going to be brutal. I was actually pleasantly surprised and rather entertained by how hard these guys worked.
So you went down with low expectations.
Extremely.
So does that mean the show was actually good, or you underestimated what the show would be?
I would have had more expectations for your fantasy team winning a week or two or a month or two than this Lockdown pay-per-view being solid. So I guess anything is possible now. So you do have a slight ray of hope.
Was Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle, which was 2 out of 3 Falls Ultimate Ultra American Males Rules, whatever it was.
Alpha Male
Monty
Rules.
Brown. Was it, quote-unquote, overbooked? Well, the feedback we've gotten has been, it was an overbooked mess. The finish wasn't good. I asked the question, but let me first say the fans were into that match more than any other match all night long, obviously due to the star performances of Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett in that matchup. And I personally don't think that the outside involvement took away too much from the match. It all seemingly made sense.
There were 2 crazy bumps in that match in the end by Kurt Angle.
And an RKO.
Honest to God, Kurt Angle was millimeters away from breaking his neck. I mean, the way he is so lucky he did not fall on the top of his head. And the reason there was such a strong crowd reaction is, let's face it, the fans hate Jeff Jarrett and Karen Angle. It's a true storyline that they are doing. And a lot of the fans, even a lot of the performers that were at the pay-per-view, they are uncomfortable with that storyline. And you know what? They always say if you want a good storyline, there has to be a little bit of truth. Well, there's a whole lot of truth on that. And, boy, the crowd was so behind Kurt Angle. It was deafening at times. They were so loud.
It was. We've seen that match a lot. And coming into it, I'm thinking, is this going to be the end of it? Whether it was or not, they delivered also. And give credit to a match that could have been enough. We've seen this. But it worked. Now, I don't know what else they could do. They could have it end where Angle finally does win, and it ends at that point. But, to have Karen get involved with the mace and all that, you do have another – I don't know. I enjoyed the match. I just don't know if they could go another step.
Here is why the match was good, because you had 2 guys that have put their time in, that know how to tell a story, that know how to work the crowd.
You got 2 veterans. And
they took their time and made everything they do count.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it worked. Now, I don't need the PWR universe to jump all over this, but it's kind of similar. Not saying it's the same type of match, but it's similar as to Triple H and Undertaker taking 25 minutes and telling a story.
Right.
Which is the same thing Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett did, which not many guys on the shows do anymore.
But it was a botch fest. This is what people out there are saying. The experts who are experts.
Any wrestling expert to go on the top of a 20-foot high cage and do a moonsault and nail it right. Come on. It wasn't a botch fest.
I think it delivered. And you got to give credit, and you make a good point. These are 2 veterans that understand that.
And it's the point that I've made, at least on this show, many, many times. Sometimes we all as fans will benefit from just sitting back, watching, and enjoying. And sitting there watching and enjoying that matchup between Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle was very, very cool because they put on a show. And they had everybody there bought in. And that shows you. They're veterans. Jarrett's been around for a long time. Angle's been around for a long time. They know how to tell that story, as you talked about earlier, Dave, and they did it at Lockdown last night. A match that may not have told such a story, though, was the changing of the guard amongst the TNA Knockouts as Mickie James, in less than 1 minute's time, became the new Knockouts champion. Now, earlier we talked about the Jeff Hardy Sting match from Victory Road. Is it smart for TNA to have had a match for a title, go as short as it did, and then have a new champion as a result?
Well, they really had no choice. Mickie James still has a separated shoulder. So they didn't want to take the chance of Mickie getting hurt or hurting Madison Rayne. And let's face it.
But they made her champion.
Well, they had to. What else are they going to do? It is what it is. I'll be honest, the match was... I saw the introduction. I was talking to somebody, and the next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire, and the bell rings and the match is over. I just couldn't believe it.
If you're going to have a title match go a minute and a half, might as well be the women's match. But both of them, if Mickie James was healthy, probably would have been a pretty decent match.
It would have been. Madison Rayne is, in my opinion, the top knockout or diva in wrestling right now because she's believable.
Right.
You actually believe that she is that person that she portrays on TV.
Mm-hmm. The X Division #1 contendership in an Ultimate Escape match had 8 wrestlers involved in the X Division, including Max and Jeremy Buck, and very surprising, Max Buck becoming the number one contender and winning that matchup. David Hero, I believe you favored Robbie E. in this matchup.
Well, yeah. I mean, Robbie E., he's the guy that should have won. The fans, when Robbie E. came out of all the guys in the X Division matchup, I mean, Jay Lethal got a great crowd response. Suicide got a great reaction. But they booed Robbie E. like almost X-Pac heat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just don't like him. So why not use that to your favor? Right there is a guy that fans are invested in, that fans do not like, that fans want to see get beat up, and instead they let one of the Hardy Boys win. Right. I don't know. I didn't get that at all. The people aren't going to pay to see the Bucks in a singles match. Not saying they're going to pay for Robbie E. either, but at least they cared enough about Robbie E. to boo him. When Max and Jeremy came out,
not much of a reaction.
No, not at all.
TNA's got something special in Robbie E., in my opinion. If they capitalize on the fist bumping, if they capitalize on what the fans want to do when that music hits and he comes down the aisle and he does a great little spot in the middle of most of his matches where he throws up the fist bump, I think that they've got a good opportunity there to capitalize on that character. Now, I'm not sure they've done it yet.
Someone you can market.
Mm-hmm.
Whether TNA wants to go that route, who knows? But I thought that match was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. And again, these guys gave it all.
The only problem I truly have with those X Division lockdown matches is 9 times out of 10 it's the smallest guys on the show. Mm-hmm. Take the craziest bumps, and they survive every one of them. You know what I mean?
Yep. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to talk about the main event matchup, the World Heavyweight Championship matchup for TNA Wrestling anyways, which was at Lockdown last night. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. I want to thank all of you for your patience at the beginning of the show, as obviously the Brewers went to, 12 innings tonight?
I believe so.
Can't control that, and obviously some obligations here for the station with the post-show with Vintage Fish. And those of you who joined us for the early version of the Pro Wrestling Report on Blog Talk Radio, a couple difficulties getting that going, but we appreciate those of you who joined us there. Linda, how can people talk to us tonight?
Tonight, lots of different ways, baby. We got Blog Talk Radio, which we've got a lot of people chatting right now. Lots of heat when you came into the room, Dameon.
Yeah, because he's rude. Hang out with the Pope for a weekend and see what happens. Pope-alicious, Dameon-licious.
Also, guys, of course, Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report and on Twitter, Twitter.com/PWR Show.
Thank you very much, Linda. The main event last night at TNA Lockdown is next on our agenda. Dameon Nelson here along with the Cause, Linda Kay, and David Hero. It was Sting defending his TNA World Championship against Kid Anderson and RVD. This match went about 8 minutes or so, and retaining the title was Sting. David Hero, I think this one caught you by surprise.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you got 2 of those guys on your fantasy team, you're hoping the one's going to leave as the champion and get that extra 25 points. But, Sting somehow gets the victory. I mean, obviously, that new TNA contract he signed must give him some kind of creative control. I mean, I don't know. I honestly thought that this was going to be Ken Anderson's moment, get the belt back in a match that, is a gimmick which can protect and save certain guys in certain situations, but obviously it was not meant to be.
I realized that the match was short, being there in Cincinnati, as you were too. I realized that the match was short, but it didn't, to me, feel too short. I was more surprised by the placement of the match on the card, which makes sense, especially when you look at what had to happen with Lethal Lockdown. They just tore the place apart. But I was surprised that it happened at that point. I was also surprised, given all the disdain that we heard when Sting won the title, that when Sting retained the title, the crowd was solidly behind him.
Because he's an icon. Because he's a legend.
But you've heard the hate as well, Dave.
Absolutely.
How dare people put the title on Sting? Why are they putting the title on a 52-year-old man? Blah, 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 blah. But the reaction was there.
On. But that is like what your buddy the Pope calls the internet wrestling geek.
Oh, no. The Pope called one person an internet geek, and that was you.
Yeah.
To your face.
Wasn't that funny?
To
that was
your
pretty funny,
face.
wasn't it? And then I reminded him, who won your match tonight? You or Joe? And then, of course, he hops in the elevator and goes back up to his room.
It was a good match, but do you think it was shortened because of time? Time left in the pay-per-view itself, because you talked about match placement, and knowing that TNA doesn't want to spend that extra money if they
there's been rumors of a finger pull of doom, but I'm not too sure what that all means. But yeah.
TNA Lockdown, I thought it was a passing show, and we appreciate those of you who joined us for what was a brief but at least an inclusive post-show last night on Blog Talk Radio.
Now, the reason why you came down here is because we were allowed to have a supplemental draft.
Yep. Oh, my gosh.
And obviously Bard broke down the door to get in to do this.
And keep in mind, I asked for what was fair, what was deemed by my attorney as fair, because that one gets 2 picks as well. So I'm getting, neither of us are getting anything over anybody else.
No.
I'm over the fact, I want to make this crystal clear, I'm over the fact that I don't have The Miz. I still have the most well-rounded roster.
2 wrestlers apiece. Both the TNA rosters and the World Wrestling Entertainment rosters are available. The first pick for supplemental is going to go to Dameon, per the rules here from Legal, which you do see right now.
Okay, let's get going here.
All right.
Come
My
on.
first pick is John Morrison.
John Morrison is the pick, Dave.
Let's see. Is the Miz still on the board, or is he gone?
He drew the ace.
Oh, that's right. He is gone. I'll go Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler has been taken from WWE. Dameon, your
Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle
Really?
from TNA.
Really?
Which a lot of people have said.
Your ears dirty?
A lot of people have said. A lot of viewers and fans have said, why
Your
wasn't he
language?
taken?
Yeah, they're not dirty.
The final supplemental pick.
I'm going to go with Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett. Simply because Karen Angle, she is freaking stunning in person. Wow. Yeah, so I got to go.
Based on that?
Absolutely. Come on. Why not?
There is no wild card in the supplemental, so the 2 picks.
Let's thank God, because I wouldn't want either one of the 2 guys he picked. Do you feel better now? Do you feel better?
Oh, I feel great. Look, the couple of days I had away, getting all this stuff all worked out, and Frank, congratulations on your temporary role as interim executive producer of the show.
It was very temporary.
Yeah. Well, it's all good in the hood now. No worries. No worries at all. Morrison and Kurt Angle, welcome to the Nelson family.
Yeah.
WWE announced next week on their Raw program will be the 2011 version of their draft, which is always exciting. Now, you got to imagine that this is unique that they're choosing to do it a week before a pay-per-view, which I think makes things a bit challenging for them to deliver on.
Why?
Well, because they have a pay-per-view.
That's fine. They'll still
Sunday.
have the pay-per-view with the matches, how they're set up, and then after that, they'll reset.
But doesn't it take away from the matches if, let's say, Christian gets drafted to Raw?
No, because if Christian wins, then he takes the world title with him to Raw.
I'm not sure it's going to be that obvious if that were to happen.
Well, then he's not going to be drafted to Raw.
It was an example.
Don't get hot.
The temperature is great.
Hey, how was that Skyline chili?
I just wanted a bowl of chili. Why can't you just get a bowl of chili at Skyline Chili?
I don't know.
I don't want a hot dog or spaghetti noodles or French fries. I want a bowl of chili.
Is it true that someone died in the Walgreens bathroom that you were at?
I can't talk about that.
Amazing.
Yes, it's true. Linda and the Cause will have a special edition of the Social Media Center coming midweek to PWRshow.com. I want to thank our guest, Al Snow, for joining us tonight. I did give Al a call during the break. Al's fine. He understands. He knows what you're trying to do to me, Dave.
Cut him off.
And we've got just, listen, I'm not overselling this, but one of the most amazing wrestling stories you're ever going to hear from Al Snow. It's going to be on PWRshow.com come this Wednesday. You'll be able to catch that there. And one of the highlights, there's an IHOP, a van traveling 70 miles an hour, 6 midgets.
A naked midget.
One of them being naked. At least 30 beers.
And a spear.
And so much more.
And wooden blocks.
Those are the highlights of that interview that we have with Al Snow. Al, always great to talk to. And, David, we'd be remiss if we didn't thank some of the great people from TNA Wrestling who were very hospitable towards the show this past weekend as part of Lockdown.
You guys need to send in your expenses to sports, by the way.
You know what's funny, Frank, is the Pope was asking me why I didn't draft him on my team. I said he was off limits.
Oh.
I want to thank you again for your patience during the first few minutes of the show here. And also want to remind you we're back on the air next Monday night right here at 540 ESPNMilwaukee.com. And, it's 65 to 60, Dave. 5-point spread.
5 points is a big lead.
No, it isn't. What are you talking about? No, it isn't. 5 points is a big lead.
It is. It's
whatever.
humongous.
You're delusional and crazy.
With the team
Thank you for joining us from wherever you are all over the world, including those of you who joined us on Blog Talk Radio. For Linda Kay, for David Hero and the Cause, this is Dameon Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in here, the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and live all over the world at ESPNMilwaukee.com.